I'm Luke Darcy. Welcome to Access All Areas. A bit of a shake-up this weekend with the top two teams toppled and some surprising results which have changed people's views as we head into the home stretch of the home and away season. I welcome Damien Barrett. Some big upsets in the weekend, Damo.
Yeah, there were, Darcy. Probably no bigger upset in terms of how it actually played out was the Essendon loss to Collingwood. I mean, the second consecutive thumping that they've copped now. Hawthorn the previous week, Collingwood yesterday. So I think we've got now evidence to suggest this whole entire drugs saga has caught up with this football club on field.
Staggered that it hasn't happened sooner, to be honest with you, Damo. I think the resilience of that group, the resilience of the coach James Hird under unprecedented pressure. There hasn't been a coach put under the microscope like James Hird has been across this season. I'm amazed that they have been able to perform the way they have. At some point I just thought it had to get them, and I think it looks as though it has. It looks as though that overwhelming amount of outside pressure has finally got them. Yeah,
it does. And the ASADA report came down on Friday night, just gone, as we know. I expect now the AFL to use its own rules, using that report lined up alongside the Switkowski report, which was the commissioned report by the footy club itself, as well as their own intelligence around the whole thing, does. And I now expect, it's just my take on this whole story, that there'll be something by way of AFL ruling on this, or at least decision, sometime in the next fortnight.
Quick one, Damo, the penalty. What's going to happen? I know it's a gut feel, and I'm putting you, asking you a question it's hard to answer. What's your gut feel? What's the penalty going to be, if any?
I still feel points have to be removed from this season, Daz. I can't see how the AFL can endure what it's endured to this point, get to the finals and still have Essendon alive in it. It's a lingering problem if that is the case. The report that was handed down, Daz, that the use of the term interim report is the key one there. ASADA, was clearly not ready to anywhere near the time required to have that report in full. So they've given an interim report. The onus is now on the AFL to look at the contents of it, and they've got enough, as we know, if they want to act under their own rules at any stage of this. And they've now got two reports that are pretty powerfully compiled to act upon.
All right, Damo, we'll move on. They met a red-hot opponent in the Magpies in the weekend, and they might have just got their forward structure absolutely perfect heading to the finals. Cloke and Reid, to me, is a combination they just have to stick with from now on. It really separates Cloke from getting double teamed too often. It looked perfect in the weekend.
When you drill down on it, does, is that what it does? It means that they second-guess themselves by way of how they tackle the Cloke problem when you're an opponent.
Two key forwards is always the ideal structure because you can't close two down if you've got two big options capable of doing it. And Reid looks a natural forward to me. I know he's an All-Australian defender, but Lockie Keefe coming back into the side has given him the flexibility to do it. Sometimes you've got to make a brave call. And you can always go back, you can always roll Reid back.
But you lock that in now?
From now on,
100%.
I just think that's the way to go. If they are going to have a bold play at the finals, top four is still within reach, then I would play Reid as a permanent forward.
Well, they won 4 of their past 5 pretty much with that structure in place, Das. The Gold Coast loss being the only problem there. Das, Dane Swan has done today what he did relatively recently and referred, at least on social media, to drug testing being done at his house. He's had a reference there on, this is an Instagram posting, to Jonathan Thurston, who complained about it in the NRL last week about, I feel you, bro. I got a sneaky knock on my door this morning. He's got a picture of 2 ASADA drug tests. There's a couple of humorous hashtag use there, Das, including the last one. Thankfully, I wasn't a love machine. Das, I just feel, and we'll just move on to his next posting too before I say anything else. All done. I feel like an apple juice now. Hashtag thirsty. There's the samples he's provided, Das. A little bit of an insight there. But I just feel the whole AFL competition needs to take seriously, for the first time, I think, as a collective, drug testing. These are serious matters. They're not ones to be joked about, Das.
Well, I know, Damo, that you can be without humour at times. I mean, I don't think he's thumbing his nose at it. I'm not sure you post a photo of the drug testers, but that's the way he rolls, Dane Swan. That's his take on life. He has an alternate view of the world.
They roll up at 6 o'clock for a reason, Das.
Yeah, that's right. And he's subjecting himself to it. I think if he closed the door and was protesting about it, I think he probably overstepped the mark last time when he suggested that they shouldn't be there. But I think that's a bit of fun, Damo. You've got to let them be characters. Hey, I want to ask you about the other big story. Ahmed Saad, speaking of drug tests and having a positive A sample, should he have played on the weekend?
No way should he have played, Das. I mean, an irregular sample on an A test. I understand the protocols and what the AFL and St Kilda are saying about this, that normally, under normal circumstances, we would have not known his identity and we would have waited till a B sample before anything was made public. Forget that. A sample irregularity, name made public, by Ahmed's own desire. He was happy for his name to be made public once it was speculated on. It's the worst look I can think of, that a person in an AFL situation this year has been tested or has an irregular substance in his body, and it's been proven that that's on the A sample, waiting the B sample. Das, one of the worst looks I can think of for the year, in a year of pretty bad looks on the drug front.
Tend to agree with you, Damo, on that one. Let's move on to a young superstar by the name of Chad Wingard, who became a hero of the showdown with this mark. Right at the crucial stage.
You like this kid, don't you?
Oh, I love him. He's just got everything you would want in a young player. 19 years of age, 5 goals, Damo, on 24 possessions. He is having an extraordinary season.
Yep.
Off the grid a little bit over here in Melbourne. We don't see them as much as obviously you do in South Australia, but I love the way he plays. He's an absolute beauty.
How do you get so footy smart to us at just 20 years of age?
And that's the instinct that you can't manufacture, that ability to understand where the ball's going to go, understand key moments. I mean, I know we can get a little bit overhyped sometimes, but he is an absolute beauty.
I've been trying to tell you all year, it's not just a big three, Das, it's a big four. Fremantle is part of this big four. Would you agree now?
Yeah, I'm coming around your way, Damo, and I think they are a genuine chance for Fremantle in any game, anywhere they play. Ross Lyon coach teams have a knack of winning. Super impressive. They've still got Pavlich and McFarlane to come back in, two of their best players, arguably their two best players. They are a genuine chance of playing in a grand final this year.
The team they fixed up, Carlton suffered against them. They're three amigos, the Blues. Das, are they just seriously overrated footballers?
They 100% are overrated, and it has to be said now. They don't perform well enough, often enough. The gap between their best and their worst is so wide, Damo, that you can't continue to play them. I think Mick Moldhouse was exasperated after the game.
We're talking about Betts, Yaron and Garlett here.
And you look at the comparison between Hayden Ballantyne and Michael Walters, who haven't got the reputation yet that the three on the right do, and they just don't perform enough. Look at the difference there. 7 goals, 34 disposals, contested possessions, clearances and score involvements. It's just not enough. You've got to, particularly with the pace and the way that they play the game, they've got to actually get involved more. They can't have games where they're just non-existent. 3 out of 10 is not acceptable with the experience they've got. It's a massive issue for Carlton. They've got to look at those three and whether or not they continue to play them.
What do? You get rid of 2 of them or 3 of them or 1 of them?
Some hard calls are going to have to be made, and I think the hard calls, are talking about list changes at the end of the year. I think they're too top-heavy. They've got too many small forwards. Someone else will think that they could grab 1 of the 3 or 2 of the 3 and turn them into good players. Well, I'd be making hard calls, and I'd be thinking about moving 1 or 2 of them on.
And he's kidding himself, Betts, if he thinks he's worth more than $600,000. He'd be lucky to get 300, I would have thought, the way he's playing. Zach Dewey had an interesting battle on the weekend and made a very good footballer twice. Look silly.
I love the way the Irishmen play the game. This is as good a sidestep as you would get in any sport, and run forward and kick the ball like that. Michael Barlow, probably lateral movement after his broken leg is not his strong point, but he does again. Second time round, you could just see Michael going, oh no, not you again. That's a brilliant little sidestep from Tui, and a couple of ripping goals from the young Irishmen. The Irish boys are just dominating at the moment.
Yeah, and he's such a good kick, Das, as you said. Das, Richmond defeated Hawthorn on the weekend. I must have put my hand up here. I've taken a long time to be convinced. I'm nearly there. I know you've liked them for a long time. They kept Hawthorn to their lowest score for the year.
Well, I think there's a point in time where you have to put your hand up and say they are a legitimate force. I think they're becoming a legitimate club in every sense of the word. Their membership's gone past 60,000. They will pretty shortly go just behind Collingwood as the second biggest club in the AFL. I think they've got all the boxes ticked from a CEO, Brendan Gale. They've got a stable board, have had for a long period of time. They've got a great football department.
And they do some damage in September?
They can win a final. I don't think they're as good as the Big Four just yet, but I love the way they're heading as a club, and I think the next 3 years you'll see a very competitive Richmond team.
Now, you were someone who was quite visibly emotional on a field when you needed to be to give a player a spray. I want you to take a look at Nick Rivold spraying his long-time friend Nick Del Santo on the weekend.
I love it because
Richo-esque?
Had a little bit of Richo about, and I love Richo. So look, you turn around, you've led 150 metres right on the siren. Dow, any danger of just kicking that 20-metre ball where I led to, and you're allowed to do that with your mates, Damon. That's the robust. And even the trainer gets a spray. Mate, you should have been out here 5 minutes ago. Give me a drink. What's wrong with you as well? That's a bit of human nature. You're allowed to do that. 2 guys who are good mates from school days, Joe Watson and Luke Ball. We know Joe Watson got a sore shoulder, Das, and he's probably the only person on the ground who'd be able to do that to him, I would have thought. And a little bit of fun. You can see Joe Watson thinks that's quite humorous. Is that the sore collarbone? Yeah. I might give that a test out. Joe gets a bit of humour about that Damo, and I like that. Nice note to finish on. That's all we've got time for today. Another edition of Access All Areas. Thanks once again for joining us. We'll see you next week. Goodbye.